Hey everybody, this is David Brown, and today I'm going to talk about seasickness because 2 days ago I was on a pelagic birding trip and I got seasick. There's a lot of articles out there that talk about ways to prevent seasickness, but I want to make this video describing what the experience of being seasick is like. It can be quite a scary experience if you've never been seasick before, and I think knowing what to expect can make it a little less scary when it does happen. The photo in the background here is an Iceland gull from this trip I'm going to talk about. The first thing I want to do is lay out a scale of 1 to 5 for levels of seasickness just to make it a little bit easier to talk about. So 1 is I'm okay, I'm not feeling seasick at all. 2 is I think I'm okay, maybe I'm beginning to feel a little bit seasick. I'm still fine, but I'm thinking about taking some more medication. I'm thinking about eating something. I'm thinking about moving to a spot on the boat that's not moving as much. Um, I'm focusing on the horizon more. I'm not looking through binoculars as often. Number 3 is I'm not okay. This is when you first realize that there's a good possibility that I may throw up and I need to start heading to the railing. 4 is I'm really not okay and I'm about to throw up. And then 5 would be actually getting seasick and throwing up. So, using that scale, I want to tell you about the experience I had 2 days ago. So, first of all, it was a 12-hour pelagic birding trip out of Cape May, New Jersey. It was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And going out, I knew that the seas could possibly be rough when we got out pretty far. The forecast I had been looking at said up to 5 to 9 foot swells. So, fairly rough seas. Now, going out for the first half of the trip, we had the wind pushing us and we had waves pushing us. And so it was fairly smooth. About 1 p.m., we turned around and started heading back into the waves and into the wind. And that's when things got bad. So, the first half of the trip, I was at 1. I was feeling okay. Once we started getting those heavy waves, I was still at 1, and I was even up front for a while when it was rough. I was still feeling okay, but at some point I realized, I needed to start taking some more medication just to make sure I don't get seasick. So I took some more Dramamine, I ate a little bit, I drank a little bit, and so at that point I would say I was at a level 2. I was still feeling okay, but there was the first signs that, okay, I need to start being careful. And then the thing that pushed me over was to the edge, was I had to pee. So I went down to the head, as they call the bathroom on the boat. And I think that the smell of the bathroom combined with the movement of the boat with no external reference point, that just pushed me to level 3. And so when I came out of the bathroom, only a minute or two later, that's how quickly the change can be. I didn't go back to the upper deck where I had been the entire trip. I stayed on the lower deck and went to the railing because I knew that there was a chance I was going to throw up. So standing at the railing, I went from a 3 up to a 4. And again, 4 is I'm really not okay. And if you've never been seasick, you may think that 5, actually throwing up, would be the worst. But no, let me tell you, 4 is the worst. That is the worst sensation of being seasick. That's before you throw up. Being seasick isn't just something of the stomach. And I wouldn't even say it's largely something of the stomach. It's mostly a feeling in the head. It's a pressure, it's a dizziness, it's a confusion. It's just a terrible feeling. And that's when I said at the beginning that it can be a scary experience. That's the part that's scary if you've never experienced it before. Because it's this feeling that I'm not okay, I'm about to throw up, I'm stuck on this boat for God knows how many hours longer. How am I going to manage this? I feel so bad right now. When you actually get to number 5, throwing up, it comes as a release. And as unpleasant as it may be to throw up, okay, because you have the burning of the esophagus and the mouth, and it might come out your nose. It's a horrible thing throwing up, but at that moment you throw up, there's nothing in the world you'd rather be doing because it relieves that pressure of number 4, that head pressure. So for me, throwing up seems to come in groups of 2. So I said I was at 3 at the railing. That went to 4. I'm about to throw up. First time I dry heaved a little bit, just kind of spit. And then maybe 30 seconds later, then I threw up again. Not that much, actually, just a small amount. But I would say after you throw up, in my experience, I usually drop back down to a level 3. Okay, so throwing up relieves the horrible experience temporarily. When you're at 3, the thing you want to do is go down to 2. The thing you don't want is to go back up to 4. But like I said, it's usually groups of 2 for me. So after I dry heaved, I went down to 3. It escalated back up to 4. I threw up a small amount. Then I was back down at 3. And 3 is a manageable level. So don't think just because you throw up that you're going to be 100% miserable the entire rest of the trip. 3 is manageable. You're not feeling good, but you're not feeling absolutely horrible. So actually at that point I moved to a different position because we were heading into the wind at a pretty good speed, and I didn't want to hit anybody farther back along the railing when I threw up. So I actually went to the center line all the way at the back of the boat, at the stern. And so at that point, it was probably, I've been trying to think how long it was, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes between when I threw up those first 2 times. I was at the very stern on the center line, and I was at a 3, and then again it escalated to a 4, and then I actually threw up quite a considerable amount. That dropped me back down to a 3 for maybe a minute. Then a minute later, I went back up to 4. The worst feeling in the world. That's the feeling people describe as, I hope this boat sinks so I don't have to go through this. Right? You'd rather that the boat sinks and you die to get you out of this misery. And so I threw up the second time in that second spot then. And then that dropped me back down to a 3. And at that point, I had someone bring me some crackers and a water. I got some food in me. I drank a bit. And I really stayed at that level 3 for a while then. I actually stayed in that position for pretty much the rest of the trip. So like 3 or 4 hours longer until we were in sight of land and the seas were calm enough at that point that it wasn't really an issue. And I didn't throw up again the entire rest of the trip, but I felt bad enough that I didn't want to go up on the upper deck, because if you're on the upper deck and you get the feeling that you need to throw up, you can't just throw up over the railing because there may be people beneath you. So I didn't want to take that chance, so I just stuck at the railing for the rest of the trip. And that's when all the advice you get from the other articles applies. Okay, you want to keep your eye on the horizon. Now in this case it was a winter pelagic. They were chumming the whole time. There were gulls and gannets following the boat, so it gave me something to kind of pay attention to. We weren't really birding much at that point. We were more just heading back. But overall, the experience of being seasick is horrible. But know that just because you throw up doesn't mean that you're going to feel horrible the rest of the trip. The last pelagic I was on, it was an overnight trip. And first thing in the morning, so we got on the boat in the evening, about 10 p.m. Then you sleep overnight and start birding about 5:30 or whenever it gets light. And I had got seasick in the morning on that trip. And I recovered and birded the rest of the trip fine. So don't think just because you get sick that you're not going to be able to recover from it. Because the truth is, each time you throw up, you feel better for the next little bit. So I hope this has been helpful for someone who is maybe worried about getting seasick or not sure what the experience is like. Yeah, it sucks. But the throwing up part isn't the worst. The worst is that head feeling you get right before you throw up. Throwing up relieves that pressure, and that's all there is to it. It's a miserable thing, but sometimes you got to do that if you want to see the birds, or if you want to go fishing, or whatever you're doing. So do your best to manage it, and if it happens, just go with the situation It sucks, but you'll get through it. Thanks for watching.